We looked at clothing, written language, and customs, but we focused on 3 of the many missionaries that have gone to that country to take the gospel of Christ. So we will present a little bit of what we learned from them now. Eric Henry Little was born in 1902. He was born in North China to 2 Scottish missionaries. He stayed in China for his early childhood, but when he was 6, he and his older brother Robert were sent to England to go to school. In college, his faith continued to grow. He also found that he was a great athlete. He became known as the fastest runner in Scotland and was nicknamed the Flying Scotsman. He became a favorite in the 1924 Paris Olympics. They published the schedule way in advance, but when Eric saw that his favorite event, the 100-meter race, was to be held on a Sunday, he declined to run it. He trained for the 400-meter race, but he wasn't a favorite to win. But when race day came,
His mouth open.
in 2008, near the time of the Beijing Olympics, Chinese authorities finally revealed that Little had made a great sacrifice, and that came as a surprise even to his own family members.
Okay.
Apparently, the Japanese made a deal with the British, and with Churchill's approval for a prisoner exchange. Little refused the opportunity to leave the Japanese prison camp, instead gave his place to a pregnant woman. Eric continued to minister and preach Christ in the camp until his death in 1945. Okay. to wealthy landowning parents. She went to Albemarle Female Institute, a counterpart to UVA. She loved a good laugh, and she was quite a prankster. On April Fool's Day, she wrapped the bell clapper so it wouldn't ring. Everyone was late to class, and Lottie got into a bit of trouble. Even though her parents were Christians, she rebelled against the faith until some college friends invited her to go to church. That night, the preacher talked about God and Jesus. She became a Christian and decided to follow Christ wherever he would lead her. She felt called to China. Living in China was very different. Making friends was hard. She didn't know their customs, and the people seemed distrustful. One day, she had an idea. She would bake cookies. At first, they refused them, but she kept on baking them, and then she became known as the Cookie Lady. She told them about Jesus, and more people came. The job became so big that Lottie wrote letters to the U.S. asking for more prayers, more money, and more missionaries. Lottie served 39 years as a missionary in China. She started getting sick and weak, and she was headed back to the U.S., but she had died aboard a ship in the Japanese harbor of Kobe on December 24, 1912. In 1918, the Women's Missionary Union, W,
so funny. It's awesome.
James Hudson Taylor was born in 1832 in England. His father was a pharmacist and a Methodist lay preacher. Hudson, as he was called, moved away from Christian beliefs as a young man, but later came back to them at the age of 17. In December of 1849, he committed himself to going to China as a missionary and studied many languages and medicine. He left England on September 19, 1853, and arrived in China 5 months later. The country is in turmoil of civil war, and his preaching was poorly received by the angry mobs perceiving him as the Black Devil. He decided to adopt native clothing and a hairstyle, a top knot, to show an affinity for the Chinese people. This appeared to have worked with some groups. Other Chinese people were still very hostile to any foreigners. As Hudson Taylor and a group of missionaries traveled up the Yangtze River, they were attacked and robbed.
Oh, yes, okay. There we go.
Despite the violence, no one was killed in that incident. It was still a sad chapter in James Taylor's life because many of his children died of disease and eventually his first wife died. But he did remarry. Attacks and hardships such as death caused many missionaries to stop work, but Hudson's heart remained intent on the salvation of the Chinese people. Hudson made 11 trips back and forth between England and China. He developed the China Inland Mission. He died in 1905. He is not the legacy of missionaries in that country today. Though none of the missionaries set out to do great things, they're remembered by the great things they did through God. Though some beloved households were faced with Paul, they only began to grasp their faith personally as young teens with a simple willingness just to have God use them wherever he led them. Are we doing the same?
Mm.